dirty look, but maybe we can get started. You're the CEO of the hospital, so you're supposed to give the dirty look. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us today for a very special announcement. For those of you that don't know me, my name is James Sconiak, and I'm an Executive Vice President at Bruce Power, but I also serve as Chair of the Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council. Before we talk about today's announcement, I do want to recognize that those of us gathered here today at Princess Margaret Hospital, but most importantly, those who are viewing this announcement virtually from the Bruce Power site that we're located on First Nations traditional territory, but in particular, the Bruce Power site, and we're going to be talking a lot about the Bruce Power site today, is located on the traditional territories of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. We have an enormous honor and privilege to operate the Bruce Power site, but it's important that we all recognize that it is on San traditional territory. And to that end, I do want to recognize the Chief of Nawash, Greg Nadjiwan, Chief Nadjiwan, and Councillors Solomon, Councillor Toby, and Councillor Snowden. Thank you very much for joining us today. Let's give them a round of applause, absolutely. So I really want to start by setting the context as to why we're here today. Really honored to have Premier Ford, Ontario's Minister of Energy, Todd Smith, with us. And as Ontarians and as Canadians, we have so many things to be proud of. I often say that we live in the greatest country, in the greatest province of the world, and I would even say that San Traditional Territory in Bruce County is the nicest place on earth 9 months of the year. And I said 9 months of the year. But why are we here today? We're here because we do a lot of great things in Ontario. We produce clean electricity, we produce reliable electricity, but we also produce life-saving medical isotopes. And I have to tell you, every time I walk into this hospital, I always have mixed feelings, because I know there has been times when all of us, and me in particular, where I've sat in an atrium like this at Princess Margaret Hospital at pretty low times, and I'm always admire that the work that Kevin and his team do here. But why are we here today? We're here today to make sure that when the frontline healthcare professionals here at Princess Margaret and hospitals all over Ontario, all over Canada, all over the world, when they come to work to be the heroes that they are, and they meet a family or a patient who is fighting cancer, we need to make sure they have the best tools to do their job. That's why we're here today, and we should never forget that. We've had a lot of celebrations with the Premier and the Minister, but fundamentally, we should never forget that this is all about fighting cancer. 40% of us in this atrium here today will be diagnosed with cancer in our life. 100% of us will be impacted by cancer, whether it's our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues, anybody. 100% of us in our lives will be impacted by cancer. And the modern form of energy to diagnose and treat cancer is medical isotopes. And Canada has been a world leader in the production of medical isotopes for over half a century. And Canada and Ontario will be a world leader in the production of medical isotopes and some of the most advanced cancer treatments for the next 50 years. So that's why we're here today. And without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to Dr. Kevin Smith, the President and CEO of UHN, who leads just an outstanding group of frontline healthcare professionals and experts in this area to kick today's event off. Kevin. Thanks very much.
Well, James, thank you very much, and welcome everyone here to Princess Margaret. It's always a pleasure to welcome Premier Ford and the Minister back, and of course your colleagues from the legislature. So again, I'd like to really just talk about what an amazing day this is as we celebrate the teamwork that's underpinning a very ambitious project. So Premier Ford, Minister Smith, and MP Damoff, I want to thank all of you for being here and all you do to support the healthcare mission here at Princess Margaret and University Health Network. It's an honor, of course, to meet our representatives of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, including Chief Greg Nadjiwan, Chief Conrad Ritchie, also Mike Renchek, Eric Chassard, John D'Angelo, who's president of Isogen, and of course, Stefan Schuster, the CEO of ITM, is joining us virtually. At UHN, we know that little or nothing is actually accomplished in science and medicine without dedicated people working in pursuit of a common inspirational goal. Our wins are always rooted in science and research. This is truly a unique international collaboration between true first-class teams: Bruce Power, Isogen, ITM Technologies, and the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. The partnership truly reflects innovation and a partnership needed to ensure that the patients we're privileged to serve and the benefits of cancer-fighting medical isotopes and a growing local and global demand can be met by Ontario. Medical isotopes, as you know, enable the critical work of cancer care, not only at University Health Network and Princess Margaret, and are already being used in precision oncology here at Princess Margaret, home of UHN's radiotheranostics program. Also, as we think about what brought us here today, it is always rooted in research and innovation, as well as education of our future healthcare professionals and scientists. I also want to thank the Premier and Minister, as this is a huge investment in a science-based economy, an economy that creates great jobs and a strong and vibrant economic future for Ontario, that creates wonderful STEM, science, technology, engineering, and medicine jobs, and also allows us to see the construction trades play an important role in constructing the facilities that are so important. This is a true science-based economic ecosystem that is being invested in today, and I really want to thank you so much for that. With that, I again would like to now turn over my wishes again to and say thanks to Dr. Stewart and Kirsch, who will be telling us more a little later today about the important role of a stable supply of isotopes for patient care and research. The Princess Margaret, luckily, is a national leader in cancer care, and we really are privileged to accept referrals from some of the most complicated cases from Ontario, from across Canada, and indeed internationally. We're very proud to see Ontario make this important move to become a global powerhouse in the production of isotopes, many we know today, and many more which will be invented because of the science we'll talk about. So on behalf of our patients and our board, chaired by Dean Connor, it's a true privilege for us to be here. We look forward to what this investment will drive, and we know that the determination and fight against the diseases of cancer will be made whole by this tremendous partnership. Thank you very much. And let me now introduce Mike Renchak, the President and CEO of Bruce Power.
Well, thank you, Dr. Smith. It's just so heartwarming to hear him talk like that and to see the patients getting treatment here at Princess Margaret Cancer Center and the University Health Network. You know, you are helping people every day here and saving lives. And it's a privilege on behalf of Bruce Power and our partnership with the Saugeen Gamzukum and Akazawan to be part of that, to know that we're just a small portion of that. So thank you for everything that you do. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And we couldn't do any of this without the policy support that we get from Premier Ford and Minister Smith. That stable, long-term policy allows us to innovate. It allows us to make investments in the future. It allows us to make investments in people. And in doing that, we can deliver hope. And I see the sign in the back that says hope. That's what our medical isotopes are all about. It's providing hope that there is a cure, that there is a treatment that can help save people's lives each and every day and help your work here at the Cancer Center. So before we get started with today's announcement, I'd like to show a short video so that you can see how we go about making medical isotopes at Bruce Power and with our partnerships.
The nuclear industry plays an essential role in the fight against cancer through the production of medical isotopes. For over 35 years, Bruce Power has been a world leader in isotope production, beginning with cobalt-60, which is used worldwide to sterilize medical equipment and fight cancer. And we've continued to innovate as the medical community has moved nuclear medicine into a new era. The installation of a groundbreaking isotope production system, known as IPS, was completed at Bruce Power in 2020, and production of cancer-fighting lutetium-177 began later that year, making Bruce Power's Unit 7 the first commercial power reactor in the world capable of producing short-lived medical isotopes. The IPS was achieved through an international collaboration between Bruce Power, Isogen, a Connectrix and Framatome company, ITM, Isotope Technologies Munich, and the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. The isotope collaboration between Bruce Power and the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation supports the fight against cancer, while also focusing on creating new and meaningful economic opportunities in the San territory. As we look to the future, new discoveries for the use of medical isotopes are providing pathways for researchers and healthcare professionals to improve lives through targeted cancer therapies as demand for these critical isotopes continues to grow. Isogen and Bruce Power are continuing to invest in building our isotope production capacity to ensure that physicians and patients can depend on a constant and scalable supply of isotopes for cancer treatment and to advance medical research. Together, scientists, researchers, doctors, and the nuclear industry are building a better tomorrow. Bruce Power is proud of the role it plays in powering medical innovation, producing isotopes that are an essential element in the fight against cancer.
As you saw in the video, Bruce Power makes Cobalt-60 along with our partners at OPG that is used to sterilize about 40% of all the once-used medical devices around the world. Think about that, around the world. We are a superpower in isotope production right here in Ontario. And we are affecting the lives of people throughout the world that we don't know. Because of that stable policy, we've been able to innovate. We've been able to create a new system to install on our units. And we put the very first one in 2020 called the Isotope Production System. Pretty straightforward, but it's not that straightforward when you consider the innovation. We're able now to produce lutetium-177, which is predominantly used as a prostate cancer treatment for late-stage prostate cancer, but also used right here at the Cancer Center in an emerging field called theranostics, where treatment and diagnosis can occur at the same time. That innovation has opened the door now to being able to have the very first power reactor here in Ontario and around the world to be able to make medical isotopes all the time. So before, where they were made out of small batches of research reactors, we can do it online every week. The first system was able to make around 200,000 or treatments for around 200,000 patients. With our announcement today, we are doubling the capacity of that first system. So I want to say thank you to Isogen, Connectrix, Framatome, Gamzukaman, Akazawan. We're here today in a celebration because there is hope on the way. We'll be able to deliver now treatments for over 400,000 patients from this one system. And in the future, we're going to be able to expand this on multiple reactors, so it's one system on one reactor. We can put multiple systems on a reactor, and we have 8 of them to go. So hope is on the way at a scale that's been unprecedented for the medical community, and we're excited to be able to do that. It's a very fitting finish to my career here at Bruce Power. In 2011, we had this notion that we could do this at a power reactor, and we made it reality some years ago with the help of Premier Ford and the administration and the help of Minister Smith. And as we go forward, we know that we can continue to do this. I'd like to introduce now the incoming CEO of Bruce Power, Mr. Eric Chassard, and Eric will carry on this good work going forward. So, Eric.
Thank you, Mike. On behalf of all of us, I really want to warmly thank you for your leadership leadership during your career at Bruce Power, but also leadership through the nuclear industry worldwide. We've been working together for a little more than 14 years now in several parts of the world, and I've always enjoyed this. I've learned a lot, and I'm ready to take over, right? I had a small story before getting started. When I was a young plant manager, I was 28, and I was in charge of a nuclear power plant in France, and we invented something very new, which was to produce iridium-192. So I'm just kind of closing the loop, and just to tell you that I'm super overly committed to keep innovation and to keep producing, innovating in nuclear isotope. I really believe that's our way to get cancer, and we will deal with cancer like we are dealing with flu, right? That's really what we have in front of us. Because what Mike announced is that now we can do mass production of lutetium-177, but what we can do also, and that's unique in this system, is that we can test whatever we want super fast. Like when it was taking years with a huge backlog of research and development for isotopes, now we can do it in days, in weeks, just because it's in mass production and it's in a nuclear power station, right? Not a research reactor. So really, it's a huge honor, it's a huge privilege to join all of you this afternoon as we celebrate that we're going to double, right? We are going to double the production with this system. Again, we are going to have mass production. That means anybody who wants to get a treatment will be able to have it, and to have it cheap, right? That's what's very important, because before with research reactor, it was super expensive to get one dose. Now it's going to be available, achievable for everybody. So that's really, really huge. So the ambitious program and timeline is on track, on pace, to deliver the commissioning of the IPS. I can tell you, I've been in charge of all the projects for Bruce Power for the last 5 years. Each time we talk isotope, everybody is on it, right? I don't even have to worry about it. I know it's going to get done. Right? There is such a passion between our teams, between the SOGIN Ojibwe Nation, between Isogen, between Bruce Power, between ITM, that whatever we decide, we're going to make happen. So as incoming president and CEO of Bruce Power, I really look forward to continuing our very strong partnership between the SOGIN Ojibwe Nation and Isogen, as we said, with John and David and Framatome and all our partners, and ITM on this very important initiative. Right? It's really very important for all of us. We've all been touched by cancer. That's been part of me, of my family, with my wife and some very dear ones. So we're all very committed. And as I said, we're going to make cancer a bad memory. And I look forward to engaging with the provincial, the federal government, who have been so important advocates, but also giving us a very stable policy, right? We could not do what we are doing, not only with isotope, but also with the investment on site, if we did not have a very stable energy policy. You see lots of countries failing because they don't have this stability. So big thank you for that, right? That's why we are able to do what we are doing. And we are very proud to play this role empowering medical isotope and again to fight cancer, right? That's why we're here today. So together with our partners and with continued advocacy at the provincial and federal levels, we will continue to explore further avenues for isotope expansion. As I said, this system is really unique because we can test whatever. And you know what happened, right? The more you test, the more you find. So that means we're going to get to find very good treatment. We are stronger when we work together. Right? My background in this project is very true. It's all about teamwork. It's all about people. And this initiative to double our production capacity of the IPS to produce more cancer-fighting medical isotope is just that. We are stronger when we work together. So thank you to everyone involved in this project. The teams are working pretty hard right now on site to make it happen as we are celebrating. And to all of you who have joined us today, so a big thank you. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Eric. And I have $1 million question for Eric and Mike. When I started working for Mike 8 years ago, I didn't have a single gray hair. And Eric's worked for him for 14 years, and you have more dark hair than I do, so I'm going to have to learn your trick, Eric. Before I introduce our next special guest today, there's a couple of individuals that I do want to recognize. So firstly, this event is being live streamed. I know there's several thousand people through all the different platforms listening in, but there's one group in particular that I want to recognize, and I know the Premier and Minister always make a point of doing this, is back at the Bruce Power site, we have workers at Bruce A and Bruce B, construction workers, engineers, our nuclear operators, our frontline staff, who are so busy doing the work that they're not able to be here today. But I'll tell you, we wouldn't do anything without them. And that's one of the things that I find great about our partnership is we can set the goal and we put the best people on it and they make things happen. They make them happen safely, with quality, and they make a difference in people's lives. So let's give a round of applause to all the people at the station today they're the real doers. So just before I introduce our very special guest, I want to put in perspective what we're talking about when we say we're doubling production. So at Bruce Power, picture a reactor about the size of this atrium. This would be about the size of a reactor, and we have 8 of them. And it's a large source of electricity that produces, or a large source of energy that produces electricity. One of our reactors will produce enough electricity for about 900,000 houses. So times that by 8. So when we think about energy, we often think of electricity. We turn a light switch and that light turns on. So when we think about healthcare, what we do is we use the energy that is in the reactor in the form of neutrons, and we irradiate something called a target. And this is a target. And in each of our reactors, we have the ability to basically insert these targets in a reactor. They pick up the energy in the reactor, and when they come out of the reactor, they're a medical isotope. So for all intents and purposes, I often say it's like taking an ice cube out of the freezer, and we have to get that ice cube out of the reactor before it melts into the cup of a patient in Germany, in the United States, here at Princess Margaret. And so it's not only about producing medical isotopes, but it's really about the lean processes we've made around logistics. But medical isotopes, we talk a lot about the need for energy, and I know Minister Smith will a little bit later, but modern healthcare also needs a form of energy and isotopes. And our reactors here in Ontario have something that nobody else has. And I think that's something we should be proud of, but it's something we need to recognize that is very important to the world. And I think that's the best way of introducing our next guest, the Honourable Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario. And just maybe before we give a round of applause, because you almost talked over my speaking line there, Mike, is there's 2 things I want to tell you about Premier Ford. I'm not going to pretend to know Premier Ford very well, but since he was elected in 2018, I've had the chance to meet with him and work with him, be in a number of forums with him on a number of occasions. And I can tell you, Premier Ford makes certain issues his personal focus. He picks up the phone, he helps solve issues, he helps connect people. And I can tell you, since he came to the Bruce Power site, I think it was April of 2018, before the June election, Premier came and spent a whole day on the Bruce Power site, which is a lot, by the way, if you're running for Premier, to spend a whole day at one location. I don't know what his tour folks thought about that, but he was committed to it. And since that day, he made this a priority. The second thing is, as chair of the Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council, just over a month ago, we had the privilege of presenting an annual award that we present to one champion across Canada that has really been the steward for medical isotopes, and Premier Ford was the recipient this year. But most importantly, I know he's not only an advocate, but he's got a really big heart. And I know cancer has impacted his family, and I know as Premier, one of the things he wants to do is everything he can, never going to make that pain go away, but make it just a little bit easier for somebody facing that. And I think more than anything, that's what's really driven him to support this. Let's give Premier Ford a round of applause and welcome him to the stage.
Well, thank you so much, James, and very kind words. But I always say it takes a team to do anything, and what an incredible team that you have. And Mike, thank you for all the years of dedication that you've put in. And Eric, good luck, my friend. We're there for you. Because as I said when I met Eric, man, you got some big shoes to fill, but with the great team you have, and you're right. You can't ever forget about the frontline folks that are day in and day out When you take one of those links out of the chain, everything else collapses. So I'm very, very thrilled to be here today. And I'm here with my great minister, Minister Smith. And are you two brothers, Kevin and Smitty? You know, Kevin is not just a leader here at UHN. I consider Kevin a true friend. And during the pandemic, I had about 3 or 4, maybe 5 CEOs, the go-to guys, gals, and Kevin was one of the leaders that I'd call up, and he'd call me back in the middle of the night if he had to, and so I just appreciate our friendship and our partnership. I also want to acknowledge Mike, and I mentioned already, Mike and Eric from Bruce Power, and David from Connectrix. I remember when you came to the great state of Etobicoke, and Smitty, you remember that? Boy, it was just so impressive, and the work that you're doing there as well. I also want to thank Chief Greg and Chief Conrad. Thank you for your partnership as well, and we always want to work with our First Nations community. They gave me a whole bunch of names here, so I'm going to run through Dr. Stewart and Dr. Kirsch. Thank you for everything that you do here. True leaders. MPP Damoff, thank you. Keep going. MP. Did I say MPP? Well, it's almost, I guess I was trying to recruit you. That's all. But yeah, absolutely. So thank you for all the work that you do. And as I mentioned, the whole team here at Princess Margaret, and on behalf of the province of Ontario, we appreciate all the hard work. You know, we're going big into nuclear on many fronts, but especially with the isotopes. I mentioned that to our caucus, so I guess I'm mentioning this publicly for the first time in our caucus meeting. We're going to go really big with nuclear, not just on the health side, but on clean, green energy. And when the Pennsylvanias of the world and the New York and everyone else are running out of power, we're going to be the economic powerhouse, or the nuclear powerhouse around the world, making sure we distribute the clean, green energy, and especially from Bruce. And, you know, I have very few pictures in my office, but I do have, as soon as you walk in to the right, a picture of Bruce Power. And when you have people from all around the world coming in, there's a person that walks through that door that I don't explain about Bruce Power and the other great facilities that we have as well, no matter if it's Darlington or if it's Pickering that we're refurbishing. But it's just amazing. I always say to people from around the world that visit, we have the smartest people, bar none, in every single sector anywhere. We have the greatest jurisdiction, the best sub-sovereign nation anywhere in the world to set up business or start a family or join a great company like Bruce, or join a great healthcare system over here at UHN that are leading the world, or at least leading Canada in research. And I always get nervous when I meet Kevin, my good pal, because it usually costs me about $1 billion for the right things. I think this one was $1.3 billion, so it's a good thing. So, folks, I'm just so grateful for how far we've come, and you know, as James was saying, there isn't a person in the country that hasn't been affected by this terrible disease. And the more money we put into it means more research, more capabilities, and I really want to be the leader. You know, as James was saying, it has affected our family. And, you know, my dad passed away of cancer, my mother passed away of cancer, and my brother passed away. I'm going to give Rob a little plug upstairs. We're naming a stadium after him tomorrow over at Centennial, so I'm just so proud of him. But our family is extremely passionate. Thank you. Our family is so passionate about helping anything to do with fighting cancer. And we're going to be there. We're going to be there as a government. We're going to work hand in hand with all the partners, and there's quite a few partners involved. And we're just going to get, as we say in politics, we're going to get it done. So I want to thank you once again. God bless each and every one of you. And am I introducing the great Minister of Energy? I'm not too sure if I am. I didn't even pay attention to these notes. I think I looked down once and that was it.
Tell me more.
Yeah. But I want to introduce an incredible Minister of Energy. Todd has really led the file extremely well. He's traveled around the world promoting Ontario, and we truly are one of the leaders when it comes to nuclear. And thank you for all your work, Todd, and let's keep going. Thank you.
Thanks, Premier. Oops. Is that something that needs to be up here? I'll put that up here. I'm going to secure that. I was counting the minutes until that bottle fell over. Folks, it's great to be here again for a great announcement. And Premier, great to be here with you, James, and the team from Bruce Power. Eric's got the big shoes to fill. Mike, let me just start with you, Mike. I've been the Minister of Energy now for almost 3 years. We've worked very, very closely together over those 3 years, and actually even during my time as energy critic for about 3 years leading into the 2018 campaign, had a great relationship with Mike and the team at Bruce Power. Sad to see you go, but I know you're really going to enjoy spending some more time with Carol and your family, and you're not going anywhere because nobody ever retires from the energy sector in Ontario, especially the nuclear sector. But I can tell you we've had many, many great announcements that we've made together. Unit 6 coming back not just on time, but ahead of schedule and on budget, Premier, which is really, really important. That's why it's real easy for the Premier and our Cabinet to say yes to what's going on in Ontario's nuclear sector right now, because they're doing an amazing job at bringing these multi-billion-dollar projects back, not just on time, but ahead of schedule and on budget. But we've announced, Lutetium-177 the first time. We've announced the return to service of Unit 6. We've announced the fact that Bruce Power is going to be gunning for 7 gigawatts coming out of that plant in a few years' time and making the changes that are necessary. But I can tell you that one of the best phone calls I had to make was about a year ago when we announced that we were going to be moving forward on pre-development work and discussions with our partners at Saugeen Ojibwe Nation and the communities at Bruce Power to move forward on a Bruce C. And boy, Mike is usually grinning, with a smile that goes ear to ear, but he was really ecstatic that day. So it's been great working with you, Mike. I know you're not going anywhere, and it's great news that you're staying in Port Elgin, Ontario, too. And we're happy to have you here in Ontario, Canada. Chief Conrad Ritchie, unfortunately, couldn't be with us today, but Chief Greg, it's great to be with you again, and it's been great working with you and your team from Saugeen Ojibwe Nation as we move forward on a number of projects together, but especially this one today, and then so many partners with Bruce and the Premier, and everybody's mentioned them already. To make an event like this happen is a really, really big deal. And Pam Damoff as well, we're going to miss you too at Parliament. You've been a great advocate in the federal government and helping move nuclear to the forefront in their energy discussions on Parliament Hill. So it has been a real great relationship. I know the Premier would say the same with the federal government on ensuring that our nuclear advantage in Ontario becomes Canada's nuclear advantage for many, many years to come. With this announcement, by Bruce Power, the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, Isogen, ITM, we're further elevating Ontario's status as a world leader in the production and supply of medical isotopes. Bruce Power was the first commercial nuclear reactor in the world to produce Lutetium-177. I know that because I was there at Bruce Power when we made the announcement together, and now they're doubling their production of this life-saving isotope. And it's just another example of why our government's making the investments that we are, supporting the 68,000 people in Ontario that work in Ontario's nuclear sector. And not just that, but we get about 53 to 58% of our electricity every day, and that electricity that comes from Bruce and the other CANDU reactors that we have in our province is affordable, reliable, emissions-free electricity that powers our province and the growth that we're seeing. And that's why we're continuing to make the announcements that we are making, because it's the best way to power a growing economy like the one that we have here in Ontario that's led to multi-billion-dollar investments that the Premier and Minister Fedeli have been able to make at places like Honda and Volkswagen and Stellantis and Umicore, and the list goes on and on and on. But you've got to have the power, folks, or those folks aren't coming and investing in Ontario. And we are proud to say that with our Powering Ontario's Growth Plan, we are the destination of choice worldwide, particularly when it comes to the EV auto sector and EV battery sector. But we're also the destination of choice when it comes to becoming a superpower for medical isotope development as well. And I've been at Bruce, where we've talked about cobalt-60 and yttrium-90, and Moly-99 at the other facilities that we have in our province, and so many more. There are so many opportunities that go with making this type of investment. So I'm confident that Ontario is going to be a medical isotope superpower for many, many years to come, and it's because of the great partnerships that we've been able to forge with all of the folks who are in this room here today. So congratulations to everybody out at the Bruce, Canada's clean energy frontier, for another great announcement today.
Great. Well, thank you, Premier, and thank you, Minister. And speaking of champions, our next speaker has been an absolute champion for us at the federal level, and she's here on behalf of the Government of Canada. And many of you will recall in the summer of 2023, we announced Canada's nuclear isotope ecosystem. It was a very transformational announcement for Canada. But you know, one of the personal reflections before I welcome up MP Damoff is, you think of the provincial government or the federal government or companies like Bruce Power as just massive organizations. But oftentimes it's a handful of people that are your champions that get in there and make things happen. And in particular in an organization the size of the Government of Canada. And what I can tell you is, when we first got to work with MP Damoff, this was a cause that she grabbed onto. And not only she wanted to engage in us from a nuclear sector, but somebody that said, this is something we as Canadians and we as Ontarians want to lead. And I can tell you, we would not be here with the partnership with the SON and Bruce Power and with the province of Ontario without that federal partnership. An independent regulator that safely and with quality approved this project in a very robust manner. And most importantly, the federal framework for us to have the appropriate engagement internationally to make the logistics work. So with that, I'd like to welcome Pam Damoff.
James, thank you. You've been amazing to work with and a good friend. So thank you so much. And it's an absolute thrill to be here today. If you saw me sneaking away from my seat, it was because I had to vote twice. It wasn't that I was not interested in what was happening, but now thanks to electronic voting that we have federally, not provincially, I was able to vote and not here, and I didn't have to be in Ottawa. So Premier, thank you for your leadership on this file, and thank you for being here. And Minister Smith, it's always a pleasure to see you. And I do think that there are even more opportunities to work together, not just on nuclear energy, but on isotopes as well. And Premier, when you said we're going to be a leader in Canada, I think actually we're a leader in the world. To Bruce Power, Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, and everyone else who's been involved in the production of lutetium-177, I couldn't be happier to be here at the amazing institution, Princess Margaret Hospital. Mike, I'd like to join the chorus of thank yous for your leadership at Bruce Power. And Eric, I'd like to welcome you. Where's Eric? There you are. I'd like to welcome you as well. Mike, you've made a significant contribution to our country, and on behalf of everyone in government, I just want to extend our thanks. As all of you know, and we've spoken about a lot, Canada is a global leader in the production of life-saving medical isotopes and radiotherapeutics. The government invested $35 million to create the Canadian Medical Isotope System, and the minister responsible, Francois-Philippe Champagne, is also a huge advocate. He was the winner of the Champion Award at the Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council this year. He sends his best and his congratulations to everyone on the announcement today. As was mentioned, I'm not seeking re-election, but I will say that this investment was one of the top 3 accomplishments that I've done as a member of Parliament. You don't get to work on many things in your life that have more meaning than working on something that can save people's lives. And I'm blessed to have worked on 2 of those things with the Marathon of Hope Cancer Centres, with Dr. Brad Waters, and also on the creation of the Canadian Medical Isotope System. I remember clearly when Pat Dalzell came into my office in 2019 and told me about the partnership and how we could not only save lives but provide true reconciliation with Indigenous peoples here in our country, and specifically with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. At the time, I was Parliamentary Secretary at Indigenous Services, which of course had no money for this kind of program. But I could see the benefit, and it's been a pleasure to work with Pat and James and everyone at Bruce Power to actually see the money flow through and to see today how quickly it has accelerated is truly exciting. To think of 400,000 lives being impacted because of the work that you're doing at Bruce Power in partnership with the SON and others. I remember visiting Bruce Power, well, I've been there a few times, but to see firsthand the production of lutetium-177. Princess Margaret, as we all know, is a leader in this field. And I remember when I first heard about lutetium from Pat, it sounded a little bit too good to be true. So I emailed Dr. Waters and I said, so Dr. Brad, I just heard about this medical isotope. Do you know anything about it? And he said, Pam, do I know about it? We're part of it. So it's just incredible what it can do. And just recently, the CNIC folks were up in Ottawa for a Hill Day, and I saw some scans of people who had cancer that had metastasized. And it was before and after treatment with lutetium. And I cannot tell you how it gave me goosebumps to see the difference that it makes with this treatment. As James often says, it's like a heat-seeking missile finding the cancer, and it truly is. Premier, I hope that the Government of Canada can work with your government to do more to foster the innovation that's needed for medical isotopes and radiotherapeutics and support the work that's being done. So on behalf of the federal government, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to everyone here today and all that you're doing. Thank you.
And just by the range and the number and the diversity of the speakers, it's a great reflection of just the uniqueness of this partnership. And I think one of the areas that I can tell you beyond everything that we've talked about here that I'm most proud of is the work that we've been able to do with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation as equal partners in this project. And what I don't want to say I hope, because they always say in nuclear, hope isn't a plan, but what we plan to be the beginning of many great things to come. And with that in mind, I'd like to welcome Chief Greg Nadjiwan to the podium, who will be sharing his perspectives on behalf of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. Chief.
I'm going to bring out my own water because I see this one's being saved for someone. So I'm the chief of the Chippewas of Nawash, one of 2 chiefs of the San Ojibwe Nation. And you might wonder, how did San become involved in this initiative? Well, it was James and Mike who had brought us 4 or 5 initiatives and asked us, would we like to be involved in any of them? Well, we had to do some homework. We found out that the isotope initiative was ground zero, starting right from the basement. But it had been tried and true. So we said, yeah, we'd like to be involved in the Nuclear Health Isotope Initiative. And then that's when the work started. We got to meet Pat and others. And we had to pound the pavement trying to find support, financial support, so we could buy in. And thanks to Pam and others, that money was found, and we bought into the initiative. And we're staying involved as it grows. We want our participation to grow. It's gone a long ways. It has a very solid board now with a point person, no pun intended, that is going to quarterback the growth. And we'll get to know Eric as the months and days go by, like we got to know Mike. I met Mike when he first started as the CEO, and we've had a great relationship. It's not all light and fluffy. There's some hard-fought battles that go on when we're trying to promote who we are and a place at the table. And I'm glad that the Minister of Energy and Premier brought up the green energy, because we're also trying to become involved in green energy, a net zero project. And we need the provincial support and the federal support. And I'll say, and we're working hard to try and make this a reality. I think it's one of the things I've worked hardest at as a leader, because my goal, as well as being involved in the isotope and its successes, is to be involved in the energy sector and see it as a success. And I know that I pounded the pavement. I went and seen whoever I would listen. And so we too, as the First Nation, want to be front runners and leaders in clean, green energy. But as far as the isotopes, it's all been said and stated, what it means to everyone. I'm, the friend I'm visiting right now had beaten cancer. We've all had family members that are either struggling or have been successful in beating this big C. And I only see a big success story in the future as this nuclear health isotope grows. And we're so glad that James and Mike allowed us to be part and parcel of seeing it through to its fruition and now its growth. And I really applaud you for being there and allowing us to have a place at that table. And I've met with the Premier and with the Minister of Energy. He knows that I can be a Chihuahua biting at the heels when need be. And so I thank everyone that contributes to this growing science. And we will succeed. We will make this province, this country, and this world a better place by being involved and promoting this nuclear isotope. So without saying more, I just thank everyone. Again, Eric, we'll be getting to know you better in the future, and my leaders in the provincial cabinet. I hope you hear my ask. Thank you.
Great. We're just as we get close to wrapping up today's session, you know, we've talked a lot about the partnership. I think it's really important to turn our focus now as we wrap up to the impact this has on patients. And there's two individuals I'd like to welcome to the podium. Dr. Keith Stewart, who's the director at the Princess Margaret Cancer Center, and Dr. David Kirsch, who's going to walk us through about how Lutetium-177 works and what it means to patients. I'll welcome you both to the podium.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. It's a great honor to have you all here with us for this important announcement. And welcome to Princess Margaret, one of the world's top cancer centers. Every year we see 17,000 new cancer patients. An astonishing 55,000 patients visit us every month. We treat 80,000 patients with a course of radiation every year. And your announcement is timely because we have high ambition to be world leaders in the area of theranostics, and hopefully in planning with the provincial government to build one of the first heavy particle therapy, radiation therapy facilities in North America. My main role today, being up here, however, is to introduce the next speaker, Dr. David Kirsch. Now, from time to time, some of our superstar physicians and researchers think that it's better south of the border and they leave us. So it's always with some pride that we manage to recruit in the opposite direction. So Dr. Kirsch, I won't embarrass him, but his pedigree includes Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, Harvard University, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Duke University, which is where we managed to recruit him from, to come and lead our radiation medicine program, which is arguably the top program in the world. So I'm going to hand it over to David now to tell you all about theranostics. So David, welcome.
Thank you, Keith. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with such outstanding leaders in healthcare, First Nations, government, and industry to speak about our use of radioisotopes here at Princess Margaret Cancer Center University Health Network. We use radioisotopes every day to image and to treat cancer. Canada is a world leader in producing radioisotopes for medical use. I want to start by expressing our gratitude to Minister of Energy Smith, to Premier Ford, the leaders of UHN, and our industry partners for all of the investments they've made that make these radionuclides available for our patients. We use them to ease suffering from cancer and to cure cancer every day. For example, we use cobalt-60 in our Gamma Knife radiosurgery machine to treat brain metastases. The gamma rays come from outside of the patient to treat the brain tumors, and then they can minimize the dose that the normal brain sees to minimize side effects. When we use Iridium-192 for brachytherapy procedures, here we use them to treat prostate cancer and cervical cancer. Our radiation oncologists put needles inside the tumor, and then the iridium, the radioisotopes placed inside the needles, and we treat cancer from the inside out. And most recently, we're using these radioisotopes tagged to small molecules into antibodies, which can be injected intravenously into patients. And then they can then bind to receptors or other molecules that are specific to cancer cells, and then they can emit beta emissions and deliver killing energy that can improve survival. Two examples are Lutetium-177 linked to a peptide that binds to a specific receptor on gastrointestinal neuroectodermal tumors, which are treated here at Princess Margaret. And the lutetium's dotatate is injected intravenously and seeks out the cancer cells throughout the body. And more recently, Lutetium-177 has been linked to an antibody that can bind specifically to prostate cancer cells. And this is now being used around the world to treat men with prostate cancer, where the cancer spread beyond the prostate and is prolonging life and easing suffering. So as these examples illustrate, radioisotopes are used in a number of ways to treat many types of cancer. And in the radiation medicine program, we're fortunate to have the support of UHN, government and industry partners to bring these critical cancer therapies to our patients. We're very excited for the future of theranostics, where we use molecular imaging to detect cancer and to treat cancer with medical radioisotopes. Thank you.
Great. And our final speaker of the day today is John D'Angelo from Isogen. And I just want to share a brief story. Back in 2017, when Bruce Power decided to proceed down this path, we actually issued an international RFP. It's really important in business to know what you're strong at and what you need to, and areas that you need to partner with others who have strength in that area. And we recognized at Bruce Power we had a great capability of running reactors, running them safely, running them well, processing cobalt. But we recognized for this next evolution, we needed another partner. And we received all sorts of proposals, some of the craziest ideas you've ever heard. But the one proposal we landed on was this proposal from Isogen. It was a Kinetrix and Framatome company, and there's many things that set this aside. But the two things I would say is the Made in Ontario delivery system. Through this partnership, where not only our engineering capability and operational capability here in Ontario, but partnering internationally, develop this system to have the reliability that it does. But most importantly, in business, you have a lot of people that come up to you with great ideas that they want you to pay for. That's something I've learned. The ideas that I like the most are the great ideas that they'll pay for. And Isogen said, not only were we putting this proposal forward, but we will put the capital in to put this unit on your reactor. We're that confident. So I always say, you know, who's it that says, show me the money? Tom Cruise in some movie, or show me the money? Jerry Maguire. Isogen not only did the right technical work, not only had the right aspirations, but put their money where their mouth is. So the person who wrote the check, I thought, should end this session, and I'd like to welcome John D'Angelo to the podium.
Well, afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to be here and also humbled. And I thought in order to start talking about growing the lutetium supply with our IPS, I'd just go back to what James had mentioned. We got together 2018, and James had an idea about growing medical-grade lutetium from a commercial nuclear reactor at a scale that no one had ever seen before. And I don't think any of us knew where that journey would take us, but you know, fast forward to now, we were successful in doing that, and it's a real success story. The other thing I'll note, and I'll try not to repeat too much of what's been said, is that the CANDU reactor is ideally suited for lutetium production. It's really second to none. Not all CANDU reactors are not all nuclear reactors are created the same. But the CANDU reactor has a big volume, it has high neutron flux, and it actually is I call it a natural resource for Canada. It really is something we should be proud of, and it's not to be replicated elsewhere. So fast forward from the 2018 discussion to 2020, 2022, and we started production. And I'm proud to say, since we started production back then, we have not missed a single scheduled delivery. And I think that's a record that's hard to duplicate with any of the isotope producers out there. And the credit really goes to Bruce Power Operations, to the incredible engineering work that was done by Kinetrix, made this system simple, robust, and reliable, to our partners at Framatome, and of course, the support we got from the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation and the province. So thank you all so much. But you know, we're talking about a second TFT today, but you know, in the last 18 months or so, we've already increased the capacity of this system. We've taken our 1 gram target carriers and we've made them 1.5 grams, so a 50% increase before we even put in the second target carrier. The other thing we've done is through changing our mission times, we're able now to get 30% more energy out of these, and they go further, treating more and more patients. It's a real success story. So we're talking about a second TFT. Well, it's actually representing a 300% increase in output from when we started here. With a second TFT, we can now have just-in-time deliveries. We can match what the patients need more better. We can do it twice a week, we can do it bi-weekly, or whatever is required. And any spare capacity that we've got now can be used for new and different isotopes, expanding that fight against cancer. So it also gives us the opportunity to increase the Ontario supply chain in doing this. You know, just recently at Kinetrix, we started processing enriched ytterbium, which is actually the feedstock that is used to produce lutetium. And downstream, we can do more post-processing, things like decanning and other things to expand that Ontario supply chain, which is really, really good. So in summary, I just wanted to reflect again, this is truly a one-of-a-kind event. It's a made in Ontario success story. It has a positive impact worldwide, and it's going to be very difficult for anyone to replicate this. So thank you so much, everyone.
Great. Well, that brings us to a close. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And just before we wrap up, there's really two thoughts I'd like to leave everybody with. The first is 5 or 6 years ago, and you know, the more we tell the story, by the way, the better it gets, right? That's how things work, and that's okay. But 5 or 6 years ago, we had to prove ourselves. We don't need to prove ourselves anymore. So to all of the engineers, to all the operators, to the tradespeople, to the innovators, we need to go faster now. Faster, more aggressive. This is the beginning. And there's no crazy ideas out there. We have a capability nobody else has. Let's go faster, because there's people in this building that can't wait. That's point number one. And really, to wrap up, I just want to say, you know, in all of our different careers, you know, we talk about individuals who are in public service who just get beat up 10 times a day. So this must just be a fantastic way to spend your day. But oftentimes at the end of the day, we ask ourselves, did we win today? You know, we work long hours, tough issues. Did we win today? Did we make a difference? And what I can say to everybody in this room, everybody that's been involved in this project, Premier, the Minister, MP Damoff, is when your head hits the pillow tonight, you can tell yourself you made a difference today. And that's the test of success. So thanks very much for joining us, and let's do great things together.